Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that. Pitchforks are coming. I don't know what happened. For some reason, my name disappeared on here. That has never happened before, but you guys pretty much know who I am by now. But that's weird. I've never had that happen before with StreamYard. Anywho, welcome to Sabby Sab Show on RBN. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I have some interesting stories I want to discuss tonight. Now, I do want to go ahead and give shout outs to people in the chat first. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Daryl Lawrence says Killer Mike has been getting a bit liberal lately. I've heard. Daryl. We're actually, the story we're discussing tonight with Killer Mike actually doesn't have anything to do with politics per se, but it does have something to do with Atlanta and what they're doing. And so I can't wait to get into that story because I think more people need to hear about this because it can affect all of us. Eventually, if other cities start adopting what they're doing in Atlanta, I think we could all be in trouble here. Shout out to Majin. Killer Mike is petite bourgeoisie, a clown, to put it simple. I don't know why I said it like that. I don't know why. When I saw your comment, I was like, bourgeoisie? Shout out to Wesley Whole Wheat. Glad I get to catch Sabby live on RBN. What's going on, Wesley? Shout out to Pitchforks Are Coming, says, hello, happy Friday, all. That's right, it's that weekend time. Greetings, Angela, says, hello, Sabby and Sabby fam, and smash up on the like button. Hit that like button for me, guys. Thank you. That really does help us with the algorithm there. Shout out to a non-user. Mute. Yes, I was on mute. So sorry, guys. Shout out to Yasmin, says, you're good now. Hi, Sabby. Hello, Yasmin. Greetings. What's going on, Bluegrass Mark, says, morning. Where are you, Bluegrass Mark? It is 6:04 p.m. where I am. You must be abroad. What's going on, Red Raccoon, says, hello. Hello, Red Raccoon. Shout out to Leroy, says, good day, comrades. What's going on, Leroy? Shout out to Devotion Orange, says, hey, y'all. What's going on? What it do? What up? What's up? What's going on? Shout out to Kinchi Jones, says, Sabby, greetings, hello. What's going on? Cameron X said, just got the live alert. I'm glad you got the notification because sometimes I don't get any notifications for RBN. I don't know if I've told you guys that. I don't get any notifications for RBN. So if that's you, make sure you follow our newsletter. That way you can get those notifications that we've gone live. Shout out to John Kemper, says, hey, Sabby and fam. What's going on, John? Greetings, Eric Gray, says, what's good, everybody? What's going on, Eric Gray? I hope everything's going great down there in Florida. Shout out to Crystal, says, hi, Sabby. Hi, everyone. What's going on, Cannon Hawk? Greetings, Sabby. You rock. Thank you so much. You know what, Cannon? I think you might rock too. Shout out to Harrison, friend of the show. I love that, by the way. I love that name, Harrison, friend of the show. Boston, that's right. Boston's in the house. Greetings, Gargamelts. Nice. Caught you on time. You did. You did. What's going on, Nintendo No Scope 64? Yee! You speaking my language there, Mr. Nintendo. I love Nintendo. Still to this day. PlayStation's all right. I don't like the remotes. I still like Nintendo the best. All right. Shout out to Cape Socialist, says, hi, all. Greetings. Arif Hassan says, Liberia. Shout out to Where Pilgrim, who is here, giving a shout out to Yasmin and Angela and Cape Socialist. So Where Pilgrim is saying, what's up to everybody in the chat. All right, guys. What are we talking about tonight? I want to go ahead and share my thumbnail here. Interesting stories. Here we go. Okay, tonight we're discussing Killer Mike and 2 Chainz fight back. Oh boy, why are they upset? And do they have a reason to be upset? And what could be done about it? Also, I'm going to discuss Breonna Taylor update. So there is an update on that particular case, and I hope this is bringing us on a good path here towards some possible hope in reference to this incident. But I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it seems like this might be moving in the right direction. So let's go ahead and actually get started with that story. Breonna Taylor. So first and foremost, let me go ahead and pause this here. I have a video clip that I want to play.
I spoke with the family of Breonna.
And this is from Merrick Garland. Now, he's the Attorney General. He's the one who actually made the announcement. But I want you to hear it from him first. So here is what Merrick Garland had to say in reference to the crimes against Breonna Taylor. Now, just when you thought that this may have been over, it is not. Now, this came from ABC News. Breaking, Attorney General Merrick Garland announces that the Justice Department has charged 4 current and former Louisville Metro Police Department officers with federal crimes related to the death of Breonna Taylor. I'm going to show you that article in just a sec, but let's go ahead and get into this video first. So let's do that.
Earlier today, I spoke with the family of Breonna Taylor. This morning, they were informed that the Justice Department has charged 4 current and former Louisville Metro Police Department officers with federal crimes related to Ms. Taylor's death. Those alleged crimes include civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force, and obstruction offenses. The 4 defendants were charged through 2 separate indictments and 1 information. I'm going to begin today by discussing the civil rights offenses that stem from the falsification of a search warrant. We allege that these offenses resulted in Ms. Taylor's death. Earlier today, I spoke with the family of Breonna Taylor.
Okay, let's hear this again because I want everyone to understand exactly what's going on here.
Earlier today, I spoke with the family of Breonna Taylor. This morning, they were informed that the Justice Department has charged 4 current and former Louisville Metro Police Department officers with federal crimes related to Ms. Taylor's death. Those alleged crimes include civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force, and obstruction offenses.
So I just want to point out to everyone, these are federal charges. So just keep that in mind. I would really like to see them wiggle their way out of this one. Federal is always worse. So just keep that in mind. He lists all of the things that they're being charged with. Now, I am not a fan of Merrick Garland. I think that Merrick Garland is somewhat of a hack. He has been very silent on the Assange issue, and there have been protests and activists asking him to respond in reference to that and to act, which he has not done so. So Merrick Garland doesn't get a round of applause for me for doing his job because he does it sometimes and sometimes he doesn't. But let's continue.
The 4 defendants were charged through 2 separate indictments and 1 information. I'm going to begin today by discussing the civil rights offenses that stem from the falsification of a search warrant. We allege that these offenses resulted in Ms. Taylor's death.
Okay. He mentioned the falsification of a search warrant. I don't know if everyone remembers what happened to Breonna Taylor. So just a quick rundown here. The police officers claimed that they knocked on the door. Some of the neighbors said they didn't. One neighbor said that they did, that they heard a knock. This is also referred to as a no-knock warrant. So what you have to imagine is that you're sitting in your apartment, all of a sudden, or maybe you were asleep, all of a sudden, cops just burst through the door, which you don't even know they're cops yet, if they haven't made it to your bedroom yet. What would you do? What would be your reaction if someone just burst through your door in the middle of the night? Obviously, you are going to, react. They killed Breonna Taylor and didn't even try to get her help. They let her body just stay there. They were there because they were told that there were drugs being pushed through her apartment. They didn't find any. So it's another one of these situations where the police chose to act first and ask questions later. Her boyfriend was there with her. Her boyfriend remembers this to this day. He said he still has like PTSD because of what has happened. But they didn't even try to get her help, like medical help. They're just like, she's done. So let's go into this a little bit more. I have an article here that I do want to share. Hopefully this gives some type of justice to the family. I mean, we can argue, it's not real justice, because if it was real justice, Breonna Taylor would still be alive right now. But let's go ahead and get into this. DOJ charges current former police officers in connection with raid that killed Breonna Taylor. Here we go. Trying to get him out of the way. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland announced Thursday that the Department of Justice has filed charges against four former and current Louisville police officers in connection with the death of Breonna Taylor. The charges include civil rights offenses, unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force, and obstruction offenses. You see this one right here? Unconstitutional use of force, which means I would actually just call it obsessive force, but they have terms for these things. The police overreacted. And this isn't the first time the police have overreacted. That is why she is dead. Let's go on. The federal charges announced today allege the members of a police investigation unit falsified the affidavit used to obtain the search warrant of Miss Taylor's home, and that this act violated federal civil rights laws, and that those violations resulted in Miss Taylor's death. I want to say this one more time for the people in the back. The police investigations unit falsified the affidavit used to obtain the search warrant of Miss Taylor's home. So that was the first problem. Technically, according to this, they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Sorry. They shouldn't have been there in the first place. According to this, let's go back in. And that this act violated federal civil rights laws, and that those violations resulted in Miss Taylor's death. If they would have followed protocol, Breonna Taylor would probably still be alive today. They did not. This is another example of the police not doing their job properly. So for all those people, and I still remember this, for all those people that were pointing fingers saying, well, Breonna Taylor, it was her fault. She shouldn't have had her boyfriend there, knowing he was a drug dealer, whatever. It was her fault. He shouldn't have pulled out a gun. All these excuses that I heard from especially people on the right, by the way. What do you have to say now? Should have never been there. They should have never been there in the first place. Let's go back into the article. The federal charges against Detective Joshua Chainz, former Louisville Detective Kelly Goodlett, and Sergeant Kyle Meany, and he was a meanie, all right, allege they violated Taylor's Fourth Amendment rights when they sought a warrant to search Taylor's home while knowing they lacked probable cause. and that they knew their affidavit supporting the warrant contained false and misleading information and omitted other material information resulting in her death. Please pass this on to as many people as possible. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this. Let's go back in. You see why we say defund the police? They can't even do their job. Why are we still giving them money? Let's go back in. Among other things, the affidavit falsely claimed that officers had verified that the target of the alleged drug trafficking operation had received packages at Ms. Taylor's address. In fact, defendants Chainz and Goodland knew that was not true. And that's what I was telling you guys before. They had no proof that drugs were coming into the apartment. They had none. And guess what? They didn't find any. But she's dead. Garland also alleged that Chainz and Goodlet knew armed officers will be carrying out the raid at Taylor's home, and they conducting the search could create a dangerous situation for anyone who happened to be in Miss Taylor's home. Prosecutors allege that Chainz and Goodlet met in a garage after Taylor's death, where they agreed to tell investigators looking into the botched raid a false story. What do you know? Cops lying. Surprise! Can't trust them. You cannot trust them. They got together after they killed her. They got together and met up and said, okay, let's come up with a fake story so that we're not held accountable for this. They actually did this. This is something you would see in a movie, but they did it. And people wonder why I don't trust the police. Here we go on. Charges have also been filed against Brett Hankinson, a former Louisville Metro police officer who was involved in the death of Breonna Taylor. Hankinson has been charged in a 2-count indictment for deprivation of rights under color of law, both of which are civil rights offenses. Hankinson allegedly used unconstitutional excessive force during the raid when he fired 10 shots through a window and sliding glass door in Taylor's home that was covered in blinds and curtains after there was no longer a lawful objective justifying the use of deadly force. They also could have injured a neighbor. They're out here shooting into windows like it's the Wild Wild West. Someone else could have been hit. They didn't think about that. Let's go on. Hankinson went to trial on state charges relating to the raid on Taylor's apartment and was found not guilty on all accounts. I remember this. And we were like, how is this even possible? He was charged with reckless shooting into a neighborhood apartment during the course of the raid that ended with the death of Breonna Taylor. Not guilty on all 3 counts of wanton endangerment in the first degree. When he went to court, he was charged for reckless shooting because he messed up another person's apartment. He wasn't charged for killing Breonna Taylor. This is where we're at now. Taylor's death sparked protests nationwide, and outrage was further inflamed after no officers were charged in relation to her fatal shooting. The Justice Department has had a pattern or practice investigation ongoing into Louisville Police Department since April 2021. Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark from DOJ's Civil Rights Division told reporters the separate investigation remains ongoing and that the DOJ has a team on the ground still conducting interviews with stakeholders and are conducting ride-alongs with police there. That tells me that they do not feel that the officers at the Louisville Police Department can do their job, are trusted to do their job without being chaperoned. What does that tell you? Now, for people who come to me and say we cannot defund the police, I call BS on that. We can. This police department has been given money. They're not doing a good job. They can't operate on their own. They have to be chaperoned. Isn't that something? Gary says a failed state and degenerate government hiding behind a war on drugs that's been going on since before we were born. Agreed. 100%. Zach Davis said, Sabrina, cops are doing their job. They exist to keep the 99% from dismantling the capitalist system. Well said, Zach. I hear you on that one. Well said. Cameron says, does anyone know if maybe the police were sent there because of the owner who owns that property that they were living at? Because the police only exist to protect property and the 1%. That's a good question, Cameron. I'm not sure about that. But that is a good question. Synaptic 111. Something needs to be done about Daniel Cameron too. That's right. That's right. So here we are. Bluegrass Mark says, I was raised in the west side of Louisville. There is a long history of police violence against people of color there. It's way past time to hold them accountable, but I'll take it for sure. Now, here's the thing. They've been charged. Will they receive sentencing? That's what we'll have to wait and see. So I don't want everyone to, get excited because just because they're charged doesn't mean, that doesn't mean they're going to be found guilty. Hopefully this time around they will be. But we'll have to wait and see. Going back in, just to give you a recap here, I think I skipped it. Louisville officers conducted a raid of Taylor's apartment on March 13th, 2020 at around 12:45 a.m. So remember when I told you it was the middle of the night, like it was late at night. When officers broke down the door to the apartment, a guest in Taylor's home, thinking it was an intruder, you hear that? Fired a single gunshot using a legally purchased firearm, hitting the first officer at the door. That was actually her boyfriend. I'm not sure why they described him as a guest, but that was actually her boyfriend. That's weird that they put it that way. Two Louisville officers then fired a total of 22 shots into the apartment, one of which hit Taylor in the chest. A third officer moved from the doorway to the side of the apartment and fired 10 more shots through a window and a sliding glass door, both of which were covered with blinds and curtains. Now, that's according to information filed by the Justice Department. Garland also alleged that officers who carried out the raid were not involved in drafting the warrant and were unaware of the false and misleading statements it contained when they carried out the raid. Garland said he spoke with Taylor's family earlier Thursday and informed them of the charges. We share, but we cannot fully imagine the grief felt by Breonna Taylor's loved ones and all those affected by the events of March 13th, 2020. Breonna Taylor should be alive today. Yeah, I just want to remind you that's how long it's been. This happened in 2020. And I will also add, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way as well, but I would also add, I actually didn't even hear about the Breonna Taylor story until after I heard about the George Floyd incident. Then I heard about the Breonna Taylor incident. I felt like this story was actually pretty buried, to be honest with you. But because of a lot of the unrest that happened with the George Floyd incident, that brought this story to light. That also brought Ahmaud Arbery's story to light. So had it not been for that George Floyd incident, I don't even think even today I would have heard about Ahmaud Arbery or I would have heard about Breonna Taylor. Just something to point out. I think that's important for people to know. Like I said, you know, this is a step here in the right direction. Will they be found guilty? Are they gonna? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I think it's pretty sad that it took 2 years. It's been 2 years for them to try to do the right thing. I see Louisville Police Department as a corrupt facility. And I say this because, again, one of those officers was charged last year, went to court last year, and was found innocent on all of the charges. So I think they're just corrupt. It's really sad. It's really sad. Devotion Orange, Savvy Sabs, Status Quo, Vice News, Ryan Grimm were doing stories right after she was killed. Yeah, I didn't see any of those. Didn't see any of them. That's great that they did that. But mainstream media buried this story. Sad. Really sad. But hopefully this is heading us in the right direction. We will have to see. I think I had a comment here that I had starred that I wanted to get to. Mousted said maybe in a few years we'll get justice for Assange, right? They don't even talk about it, Mousted. Mainstream media won't talk about it really. It's kind of like the elephant in the room. No one wants to really mention it, but we know it's there. Crazy. Yeah, Devotion One says totally no MSM coverage. Yeah, it's crazy, right? We hear about the stories that they want us to hear about. Also, in reference to liberal media like CNN and MSNBC, at that point, it was to their benefit that, oh, George Floyd incident, let's go ahead and add in the Breonna Taylor incident and the Ahmaud Arbery incident too, because that actually helped. And I still say this to this day, that actually helped Joe Biden win. Those incidents put out into mainstream media, that actually helped Joe Biden win. They use it when it works for their advantage. Other than that, you don't hear about half of the police brutality incidents that happen in this country. You don't hear about half of them on mainstream media, just the ones they want you to know about. And when it's convenient for them and they're trying to push a narrative. Okay. Let's go ahead and go into our next story. Now, this one is about Killer Mike. Now, I don't know if everyone is aware of what is going on in Atlanta. You know, they're going through a lot of changes there. Gentrification is taking place in Atlanta as well. Believe it or not, it's even made its way to the ATL. And I really believe that this has something to do with this new rule that they are trying to implement in Atlanta. Well, Killer Mike and 2 Chainz had something to say about that. So I do want to show you this video clip and then I'll get into the article. Go ahead and here. Okay. I'm tired of it. I wish things would just stop playing on their own. All right, there we go. Okay. This was just a couple of days ago. And I'm not sure. I know, I think Hardlin's talked about this, but this happened just a couple of days ago. And this was actually the Atlanta City Council. It was August 1st where they were at this meeting. I want you to hear what was said here. And then I'm going to get into the details about what they're trying to do in Atlanta and how this is really going to hurt people who have small businesses, and particularly people who are African American and have those businesses. Here we go.
He does, but my professional name is Chainz. I actually own a couple of businesses in the city, Escobar and Escobar Seafood. I'm very blessed, and I also like to be a blessing to others, and that's what my businesses have allowed me to do. I brought up a real dear friend for me, Michael Render. I would like to yield it to him so he can really talk about the bigger picture here.
I'd like to start. How y'all doing? I'd like to start by saying I was here May 10th, and it doesn't seem like we've got much done. May 10th, I talked about the importance of small and local businesses. As Atlanta grows, corporations are going to be coming into here. So somebody's going to have a nightlife in the convention city. It's going to be the owners of Hard Rock, or the owners of Hooters, or the owners of a W Hotel, or it's going to be the little people that went to Frederick Douglass and Maids and Southwest DeKalb and schools like that. The question starts to become, are we going to keep Atlanta a place where local people can grow and thrive here? We've honored 3 people today from Adamsville who grew local businesses or were influenced by that. This ordinance will wipe out the opportunity to do that. We will not be electing council people from here. We will not be growing businesses from here, because it will all be turned over to corporations. I insist that this be sent back to committee. We will not wait 2 weeks to simply let a vote come again that will vote us out quietly in the night. This is one of the only cities where entertainers and athletes have gone on to form a business class. When you go to New York, the clubs ain't owned by people who look like you. When you go to Los Angeles, the clubs ain't owned by people who look like you. When you go to Miami, you might get turned away by people who look like you that don't feel like you deserve to be in the club. I'm saying to Atlanta right now, I'm saying to every city council person, when you come around and you need donations, when you come around and you need votes, you come to us singers and dancers and club owners, and we oblige you. And for those that don't, the people you ally with are us. The people that you need to in the last second to get you are us. So do the right thing and send this back to committee. I've worked with many of you all before. I'd love to work with you in the future, but more so, I'd love to see the people that run our nightlife working with.
Time has expired. Thank you.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Again, like I said, this is a part of gentrification that is taking place in Atlanta. They're basically trying to make it more difficult for Black business owners, like people who own small businesses, not like people who don't like these corporations. And it's gotten to the point where they've actually implemented a law. So what I'm going to do is I want to get to that article first. So let me go ahead and share the article, and then we're going to go back and we're going to walk through that video clip again so you understand where Killer Mike is coming from and why he's so upset. I know politically he can be shifty. 1 minute he was behind Bernie Sanders, now he's just kind of liberal, like whatever, totally get it. But in reference to this particular issue, more of us need to be talking about this, because it's happening in Atlanta, but it's happening in other cities as well. They are slowly trying to push out these small businesses, and particularly those that are owned by African Americans. So I think we do need to talk about it. So let me go ahead and share this article here, where it goes into a bit more detail about what is going on. So it says here, there's Killer Mike, there's 2 Chainz. Killer Mike and 2 Chainz speak out against nuisance proposal at Atlanta City Council meeting. So here we go. Killer Mike and 2 Chainz have spoken out against an ordinance in Atlanta they believe will negatively impact Black-owned businesses throughout the city. Now, wait for it, guys. Wait till you hear what this whole nuisance law is about. Both ATL bred rappers appeared before Atlanta City Council on Monday, that was August 1st, to address the nuisance ordinance proposed by District 9 council member Dustin Hillis. This would shut down any establishment after 2 reports of violence or crime. Now, Whoopsie, did I make it too big? I think I did make it too big. Whoopsie. Let me go back. Okay. I'm going to say this one more time. They're trying to pass a nuisance ordinance that is proposed by District 9 Council Member Dustin Hillis. This ordinance that is proposed will shut down any establishment after 2 reports of violence or crime. Now, here's the questions. Number 1, what do they consider violence and crime? Because these can be so many different things. For example, if you own a bar and 2 people at the bar get into a fight, technically that's violence. Is that bar going to be shut down because 2 guys got into a fight? Even if the bouncer took them out of the bar? So you're going to punish the business, the establishment? Is that part of the violence that they're talking about? Or are they talking about gun violence? What kind of violence are they talking about? Gun violence? Because violence, there's different examples. Crime. Let's talk about the crime part. What kind of crime? Because technically, theft is considered crime. So if someone comes into an establishment and they steal something, that's a crime. Now, let's say it's reported and that person's arrested. Does that mean that the business owner who owns that establishment is going to have his business shut down because someone came in and stole something at their establishment? Define the crime. Define the violence. It could be anything. So that's the first question that I have. It's a little bit all over the place for me. That's a little too broad, a little too general. You need to be more specific, I would say. 2, why does this mean that a business should be shut down? I think that's ridiculous. Look, I can tell you, especially going through undergrad, I've been in a lot of bars, nightclubs, sports bars, and I've seen a lot of fights, sometimes over stupid things, but I've seen them. Do you know how many businesses would have been closed by now if they had that rule? That doesn't make any sense. Devotion Orange just said, that man threw a drink, strike 1. Right. How many times have I seen that happen? I've seen people, and having worked in a sports bar, during football season, I've seen people get a little crazy. I've seen it. So it's vague, like where Pilgrim just mentioned this, vague enough to give them a lot of leeway. Exactly. Like, but just because someone is violent in your establishment or commits a crime in your establishment, again, this crime could be anything, that means that your business should be shut down? I don't think so. I disagree with that. Are they going to apply this same ordinance to white collar crimes? What about the businesses and the corporations where they have people committing white collar crime, where they're stealing, they're embezzling money from the corporation? Are they going to shut down those businesses? No, they're only going after these small businesses. Those are the people who are going to be affected. And particularly, they're targeting Black businesses here. That's what's happening. Now, for those who are not aware, I remember a time when a lot of people were moving to Atlanta. That was kind of the place to go. Whether you wanted to be a part of the music business, or you wanted to be a part of the film business, or you wanted to start your own business, there were a lot of people moving there to do that. Black people, mainly. So a lot of people have started businesses in Atlanta. Now, you're coming out of the pandemic where you lost so much money because of businesses being shut down, a lot of precautions, people choosing not to come out. So you lost money because of that. You're coming out of that. And now they're trying to implement another restriction that is going to make it more difficult for you to stay in business. Tell me how this makes any sense. Let me tell you what they're really trying to do. What I think is happening, I think they want to get rid of some of those small mom and pop Black businesses, and they want to get rid of those and make way for white businesses that actually will cause more gentrification. They want to get rid of Chris's Rib Shack, and they want to put in a juice bar. I've seen this happen way too many times. Way too many times. I already can see it coming. This is what they want to do. Because the reality is there's more money to be made in that juice bar because of the clientele that it will bring in. These are the businesses that a lot of these professionals that move into these neighborhoods, those are the type of businesses they want to support. The juice bar, the yoga studios, the spin cycle classes. That's what they want to support. The doggy spa. I saw it happen all over South Boston. I saw it happen in Somerville. I saw it happen in Cambridge. I've seen it happen, and it started to happen in Roxbury. I've seen it happen so many times. I can already see this coming. This is what they are trying to do. Because the people who actually support those businesses that I just mentioned to you, those people have more money. And that means it's more money to be made for the city. That's what this is about. So they don't care that Chris has had his rib shack for 20 years and it's been passed down from his father. They don't care. They know they can get more money if they bring in those other businesses. That's what this is about. Now let's go back more into the article here. I told you guys, gentrification is a huge problem. It's getting worse and worse. Okay. Now this is the portion here. So Chainz spoke and he said, I actually own a couple of businesses in the city, Escobar and Escobar Seafood. I'm very blessed, and I also like to be a blessing to others. And that's what my businesses have allowed me to do. So Michael Render, by the way, that's Killer Mike. That's his real name, I believe. He asked Killer Mike to come up and for Killer Mike to speak. And so Killer Mike gets up and he makes that speech. And I'm going to play that again in just a second. But I also want you to hear this clip as well. Hopefully it will let me. Can I? Oh, let me just see.
Right now, a proposed ordinance that will shut down so-called public nuisance businesses and properties in Atlanta, that's on hold. This is an update to a story we first brought you yesterday. Business owners you see showed up here in full force last night at that city council meeting to protest this proposal. Now, the ordinance will lead to businesses being shut down after 2 violations within 2 years. Some people, like Atlanta rapper and business owner Killer Mike, say this would target minority business owners.
We're not going to close the W if violence happens there. We're not going to close when it's small if violence happens there. We're not going to close any of the corporate bad businesses. But these people who have small businesses are now under fire.
Real passionate debate going on here.
Okay. There's something else I want to point out here. Notice she said 2 incidents in 2 years. Listen to this. Listen to it one more time.
Brought you yesterday. Business owners you see showed up here in full force last night at that city council meeting to protest this proposal. Now, the ordinance will lead to businesses being shut down after 2 violations within 2 years. Some people.
Did you hear that? 2 violations within 2 years. So if somebody comes into your establishment this year, they have a fight, the cops are called, that's reported. You go a whole year with no other incidents, And then the next year, somebody else comes into your place or your establishment and they get into a fight. The cops are called. That's your second incident in 2 years. That's 2 strikes and you're out. I can't name one bar, one nightclub, hell, even some of these restaurants that have not had 2 incidents in 2 years. I can't name one. Bob said ATL was a success story until now. Exactly. Gentrification. Now that you've heard the full article, let's go back to that video, because now you have a better understanding about what Killer Mike was talking about when he speaks here. So let's play that one more time.
All right, I'm Tahidas, but my professional name is Chainz. I actually own a couple of businesses in the city, Escobar and Escobar Seafood. I'm very blessed, and I also like to be a blessing to others, and that's what my businesses have allowed me to do. I brought up a real dear friend from me, Michael Render. I would like to yield it to him so he can really talk about the bigger picture here.
I'd like to start. How y'all doing? I'd like to start by saying I was here May 10th, and it doesn't seem like we've got much done. May 10th, I talked about the importance of small and local businesses. As Atlanta grows, corporations are going to be coming into here. So somebody's going to have a nightlife in the convention city. It's going to be the owners of Hard Rock or the owners of Hooters or the...
I just want to add in here, notice that Killer Mike said he's already talked to them about this before. So obviously he was there in May of this year and explained to them about the importance of Black business owners. So he's already had this discussion and things have not improved. Now, I will say, you know, he is one that is really like pushing like capitalism. I'm not about that life, but I will say this. I do appreciate him being involved in the community, because there have been a number of times where people, they do make it big and they peace out and you never see them come back to the community. But Killer Mike is very much involved in the community. He really does want people to succeed. But there's these issues that you do have, and some of these systemic issues with the city that need to change in order for everybody to have that option. So that's why you hear that frustration in his voice. That's why he's upset like that, because he's done this multiple times. So in his mind, he's probably like, how many times do I have to tell you that this is not the right direction to move in? This is actually hurting people. And Black people it's happening. Black people are starting to be pushed out of Atlanta, just like Boston, just like New York, just like San Francisco, just like Los Angeles. It's happening all over. So he's trying to prevent that from happening in Atlanta the way that it has happened in places like San Francisco.
The owners of a W Hotel, or it's going to be the little people that went to Frederick Douglass and Maids and Southwest DeKalb and schools like that. The question starts to become, are we going to keep Atlanta a place where local people can grow and thrive here? We've honored 3 people today from Adamsville who local businesses or were influenced by that. This ordinance will wipe out the opportunity to do that.
This is another point that he likes to bring up as well. And I think this is important to note. You do see this happening. This is where the gentrification starts to come in, where the businesses in the community are not owned by the people who actually are from the community. And I've seen that happen all over Boston. So he doesn't want that to happen in Atlanta because it's already starting to happen. So it is important to him that you keep things local. He wants the people in the community to own their own businesses. He wants the people who grew up there, who are from there, to have those opportunities. Not let people coming from the outside who move there because it's the hip, cool place to be, take those opportunities away. So that's his thing. And I think that is a message that is really important, and we really need to drive that home. This is how gentrification starts to take way. You let people come in who are not from the community. They buy up these buildings. They buy up like apartment buildings, whether it's restaurants. They buy up the property, and the people who grew up there can't even afford to keep the businesses that they've had in those communities for so long because of the property taxes go up, the rent on the building goes up. And so you see these things happening. Now, that's one aspect of it. But another aspect of it is what is happening with this nuisance bill right now, which is this 2 strikes and you're out rule, which is absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, that's going to affect a lot of people. How do you go 2 years and only 2 incidents? Give me a break. So that's going to push more of them out, more Black businesses out in Atlanta. And that's why he's saying we have to keep local. It's happening all over, guys.
We will not be electing council people from here. We will not be growing businesses from here because it will all be turned over to corporations. I insist that this be sent back to committee. We will not wait 2 weeks to simply let a vote come again that will vote us out quietly in the night. This is one of the only cities where entertainers and athletes have gone on to form a business class. When you go to New York, the clubs ain't owned by people who look like you.
I want to comment on this part too. And he's 100% right on that one. I've witnessed that when I lived in New York. Yeah, those businesses aren't owned by the people in the neighborhood. They've been pushed out. So if this goes through, I mean, hopefully it doesn't go through, but if this goes through, he has a point when he mentions it's going to be taken over by corporations, because I've heard this multiple times. This happened in Boston, where every mayor that we've had, and I've been through 3, everywhere mayor that we had said they're not going to let investors come in and buy up the property. They all say that, but it happened under every single one of them that I've been under. It's happened under every single one of them. And that's what happens. They let people come in, the corporations come in, they buy up this business, that business, they own this building, they own that building, and the people who had the business originally have no say-so anymore. They drive up the rent, so the mom and pop shop, they can't afford to pay the rent on the property anymore, and they're gone. So this is something that needs to change, and I don't know how to fix it. I really don't. And I talked to Pascal Robert about this when he came on my show a while back. How do we prevent it? Gentrification, how do you prevent it? It's one thing when it's an individual being affected. If an investor comes to you and say, can I buy up your house because I want to build, a condo building here? You can just simply say no. But it's another thing when it's the city that's doing it. How do you prevent the city from allowing these investments to come in and to push people out? That's something we're trying to figure out here in Boston as well. It's a lot of this going on. So what do, right?
When you go to Los Angeles, the clubs ain't owned by people who look like you. When you go to Miami, you might get turned away by people who look like you that don't feel like you deserve to be in the club. I'm saying to Atlanta right now, I'm saying to every city council person, when you come around and you need donations, when you come around and you need votes, you come to us singers and dancers and club owners, and we oblige you. And for those that don't, the people you ally with are us.
And this is the part where I would come in and say, then don't give them your vote. See, this is another opportunity where you can hold your local politicians accountable. Don't vote for them. If they keep selling you out and screwing you over, the entire community, why are you still voting for them? Stop doing it. You don't have to let them. And he's right. They're the people that those candidates go to when they need a vote. And then they get in, and who do they screw over? The same people who voted for them. It's textbook at this point. It's textbook.
The people that you need to, in the last second to get you are us. So do the right thing and send this back to committee. I've worked with many of you all before. I'd love to work with you in the future, but more so, I'd love to see the people that run our nightlife working with us.
Time is expired. Thank you.
We need more people to speak up about this. It can't just be Killer Mike every time. I'm just saying, there are other people that are in Atlanta too. Usher. He's not the only one. You have professional basketball players there. You have professional football players that live there. Where's the Real Housewives of Atlanta? Where's all those, especially Black celebrities that live in Atlanta? Why aren't they speaking up about this? That's what I'm saying. It can't just be Killer Mike every time. And it is. What'd that tell you? I'm going to go to some of the comments. Leroy says they're capitalists first. That's really all that this is about. There you go. Desiree says, oh no, Sabrina's mic lost noise cancellation. It's usually so clear. Oopsie. Oh no, on my show, on my channel, it's different. I don't have to mute my mic when I play a video because Eric, he's my producer. He actually uses tight VNC, so I don't have to worry about that. But I don't have that on here. So that's why you're here. Devotion Orange says the local government is trying to shut down the culture and everyone that has built culture infrastructure. That's right. That's right. I'll give you a local example. If you come to Boston and you go to the North End, which is, well, it used to be an Italian neighborhood, but that's where a lot of the Italian restaurants are. That's like our little Italy. Ain't no Italian people living there. Those people were pushed out due to gentrification. The restaurants are still there. You can find multiple Italian restaurants in the North End. Good food. But the people who grew up in the North End, those Italian families, those people don't live there anymore. They got pushed out. They got priced out and pushed out. So I started to see the culture start to disappear in Boston and some of these neighborhoods about a couple of years ago. I remember one time I was in the North End. This is when I was doing my teaching observations at an elementary school in the North End. And all of a sudden, one day I'm walking down the street and there's a Pinkberry and there's a Starbucks. And I said, you have all these cafes, these Italian cafes in the North End, and you idiots thought it would be great to bring in a Starbucks? Really? What for? What for? That didn't make any sense. And that's when I saw they're starting to get rid of some of the culture. And it's not just neighborhoods like the North End. If you go to some of the, well, what used to be Black neighborhoods, you see it too. If you go to Roxbury, if you go to Dorchester, certain parts of Dorchester, not all of Dorchester is predominantly Black. There was an Irish side of Dorchester as well. But you go to certain parts of Dorchester, Roxbury, Jamaica Plain is heavily gentrified now. It's crazy what has happened to JP. As soon as they announced that a Whole Foods was coming to Jamaica Plain, I said, that's a wrap. Pack your bags, gotta go. Because I knew what was coming. So gentrification is a big problem. I don't know how to fix it, you guys, but I think one of the things that we can continue to do is to educate people about it and explain to people why this is happening. And also that we need to hold some of these local politicians accountable for these kind of things too, because they approve the permits to let them come in. So that's something to think about. All right, guys, that is my time. I am going to be live again at 8 o'clock. I'll be on my channel at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and should be pretty good tonight as well. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. Doobie-doobie-doo. Who are you? Ooh, 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 I really want to know. I don't know where that song came from. Anyway, this is what I'll be talking about tonight on my channel at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to discuss Abby Martin and Rania Khalek have a warning for us that I think is important to pay attention to. I'm going to discuss that tonight. They had an interview together. I'm also going to discuss AOC versus Trump. Yes, that news is actually running around. I can't believe it. And Eric and his son Corey are actually going to come on tonight too and talk about 11 demands. So Eric has actually come up with 11 demands in reference to what we should be looking forward to, what we should be trying to do in reference to supporting someone, whether it's even if it's a third party candidate, we should still have some type of demands. So should be pretty good show tonight. And then I'll do call-in segment. I think it's scheduled for 9:50. So should be good times, but I have to head out. But yes, we got to do something about these issues, guys. Got to do something about gentrification. We got to do something about the criminal justice system. I'm just so tired of people just like getting over on us. I'm tired of it. But hope you guys have a good weekend. If I don't see you or hear from you later on tonight, have a good night. Keep up the fight.